Welcome back to another Assassin's Creed Odyssey video. Today we will take an in-depth look about all the 6 weapon types. We will compare the damage, the attacks, the range, the speed to find the ultimate weapon for you. So stay tuned and check it out. We will first take a look in the inventory, and I will show you that you can actually get the exact same damage number in your inventory no matter which weapon you actually use. But you have to know that the inventory always uses the DPS, the damage per second, and that will not be the same as the damage per hit. So choosing the right weapon type actually begins in your inventory. Your warrior damage consists of your weapon DPS, the warrior damage and the weapon damage factor, which is the most important one. It's called damage with daggers, damage with swords, damage with heavy blades, and so on. These engravings can be placed on your weapons and on different pieces of armor. For swords and daggers you have to place it on the head, for heavy weapons you have to place it on the torso, and for spears and staves you have to place it on the boots. And then there's also another 20% damage with 2 weapons each, which can also be placed on the head, on the torso and on the boots. And last but not least, you will get 30% additional weapon damage for every weapon type from your masteries. And when you add all that together, you will get the maximum 140% damage with your weapon type, which is the same for every weapon. But since these engravings are blocking different positions in your inventory, you have to be careful which weapon you actually pick. When you pick heavy weapons, you will not get in conflict with any critical chance or critical damage like on the headgear or on the boots. That's the reason why some people like to play with heavy weapons, but that should not be your main factor. If you're having trouble to get enough kills to upgrade the damage with your weapon type, then I have another trick for you. You should try to make a build with the highest possible melee resistance, ideally with 100% melee resistance. There are a couple of builds on the channel that can really help you doing that. Then you equip the weapon you want to level up and fast travel to Megaries. Depending on which nation is actually holding power in Megaries, you can either go to the Spartan camp at the beach, kill off every Spartan to trigger the conquest battle, or simply go to the leader house, kill the leader, burn the supplies and kill a lot of Athenians to trigger the conquest battle. Then just do the conquest battle and rinse and repeat for the other nation. Of course, the tier 6 to tier 10 engravings then have to be purchased in Hephaestus' workshop in Marlis. The DPS from your inventory is actually not the damage you will deal per hit. The damage per hit also depends on the attack speed of every weapon. For this comparison we will use the best hybrid build 2020 with all that warrior damage values, which is the same for almost every weapon type, and then we will make a spreadsheet to ultimately define which values are the best and which attacks are the best for every weapon, and we will also take a closer look at range and speed this time. We will start with the light attack, and the sword will deal around 1.25 million, and the daggers will be around 400,000 with the first attack and then 700,000 with the second attack. Axes will be around 1.6 million, heavy blunts 1.5 million. When we attack with staffs from behind we will deal around 1 million damage, and spears will also deal 1 million damage. Then we will do the same with the heavy attacks, and I think that value here is a bit odd. It normally should be higher. It probably was not a proper hit from behind with the sword. So take this value here with a big grain of salt. It should be like 1.5 or 1.7 million instead. For the dagger we get surprisingly similar values with 450,000 and 800,000 with our heavy attacks. With the axe we will get around 1.7 million with a heavy attack swing. The blunts will get 2.2 million damage, the highest heavy attack here for every weapon type. The staff will deal 860,000 when we attack from behind, and the spear will deal a whopping 1.7 million. Now let's check out the charged attacks. We will start with the sword again, which will deal around 4 million damage, so 3 times the heavy attack. The daggers will have 2 consecutive attacks, 1.3 plus 2.6 million, so that should also equal the 4 million damage for the heavy attack for daggers, but it's a bit odd because you have to make that jump attack. The axe will have 2 swings which have 1.8 million damage each, so roughly that will also match like 3.8 million in total. The heavy blunt again will have the highest damage with 5.25 million damage, and the staff heavy attack will actually consist of a combo with 1 million and then with a 1.5 million finisher. The spear has a 360 swing which will deal 3.5 million. Now we will check out the Overpower Attacks, which will be 13 million damage when we do an Overpower animation cancel with the sword, and it will also be 13 million damage when we do the same with the dagger. With the axe it will be around 12 million damage here with that lying soldier, and with the blunt it will also be 13 million damage. But then with the staffs there is no possibility to do an animation cancel. Instead we will get around 2 million damage per hit when we do that swing attack. The same also for spares, we cannot do an animation cancel, instead we will also get like 2 million damage for every attack we will do with that weird combo. When we now compare all these values in a spreadsheet with each other, we will see some oddities which we have to point out here. For example, that the staff heavy attack definitely deals less damage than the light attack. So that's a real downside here for staffs actually. And also the staff's charged heavy attack is a combination of two attacks which will deal a light attack and a heavy attack after another. So the first attack will be 1 million and then you get the heavy attack. That is also the same for daggers. We will always have like 2 attacks one after another, for the light attack, for the heavy attack and even for the charged heavy attack. So that's a potential security risk here. The enemies can survive your attacks with daggers and they may alert other enemies if you're not fast enough. So any attack that consists of multiple moves, also like the X swing, the double swing with 1.8 million each, is maybe dealing a cool area of effect damage for some people, but I rather prefer to have my damage dealt on a single target or just precisely where I want it. Another thing of course is that only the first 4 weapons can do animation cancels and staffs and spares cannot do animation cancels, which also gives you way less damage and a much harder time to defeat mythical creatures. It's really hard to direct all your damage from a spare overpower attack to a single target, even if it is as big as a Cyclops. But we also have to take a look at the quality of all these attacks, and in this regard I would give a bad ranking to every attack that consists of more than one move, which also affects all the dagger combination and also the X double swing. And then I would also give a bad ranking for the staff's heavy attack because that's dealing less damage than the light attack, and also for the spares light and heavy attack because the spares attack are always like poking with a long needle to someone really far away. And I don't really like that attack. There could have been much better moves, but they didn't implement them. Even though the charged heavy with the 360 swing is one of the best attacks at all. And then of course spares and staffs cannot do an animation cancel and have a really bad overpower attack. So in total there are only 2 weapons which have a really perfect moveset, which are swords and heavy blunts. But of course we also have to take a look at the speed of every weapon, and here of course the daggers win. They deal the least damage per hit, but they deal the most hits per second. But swords come actually in close seconds, especially when you do a combo, it's faster than a single dagger attack. So swords are dealing the double amount of damage per hit and are not really slower than daggers. Then of course we have spares and staffs, they are as fast as a single sword attack, and heavy blades and heavy blunts are of course the slowest weapons. When we look at the range, this is almost the other way around. This time the spares are place number 1, closely followed by the staff, and then we have the heavy weapons with the heavy blade and heavy blunt here, being really no difference between these two. The weapons with the least range are of course swords and daggers, but swords still easily have the double amount of range than daggers. You can still easily kill someone with a sword from your horseback, but try that with a dagger. It is almost impossible or just very annoying to do. So you give up a lot of additional range when you use daggers, and you don't really gain as much attack speed and as much damage as you would think. Of course all this weapon type stuff comes down to personal preference. I just wanted to show you the points why I choose some specific weapons, for example the swords over others, and also the heavy blunts, which is my second favorite weapon. But you can of course play with whatever weapon type you want. I just want to show you the differences, and maybe you want to explore some of the other weapons now. So I hope this was helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.